going to do that. Is that okay with you? Can I record this?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. All right. All right, so. All right, to be clear, this is yoga-informed counseling, not counselor-informed yoga. So I am a certified yoga teacher, I'm a certified educator, I'm a certified trauma-informed yoga teacher, but I am not a counselor. So I just want to be clear. This is about how we can bring yoga into counseling practice, not how we bring counseling into yoga, because I'm not certified to teach that, although I was trained by a person who is certified to teach that. All right, can you see the next screen?
Yep.
All right, so this experiential session, what are we doing here today? First of all, this is gonna help us recognize signs of dysregulation in ourselves and in our students. So, you know, while I am trauma-informed yoga, today we're gonna be talking about that in the context of what's called dysregulation. I think that that's a term that's a little bit more accessible. Maybe it's something that's more comfortable to talk about in a short session. So that's the language we're going to use today. But when you get the handouts for this, it will talk more explicitly about what is trauma-informed yoga. And then we're going to offer some simple techniques that we might practice ourselves or in our classroom to re-regulate our bodies, our breath, and our mind. How's that sound, Ange?
Keep going, Barb. Sounds great.
All right, here's where we're headed. We're going to talk about yoga, like why yoga? What is it and what can it offer us? So we're thinking about how yoga increases positive outcomes and that yoga is really just a simple combination of three things: controlled breath, controlled movement, and mindfulness around those two things, being conscious in how we breathe and how we move and bringing those things together. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk a little bit about dysregulation, so recognizing when the systems of the body are out of balance. And then we're going to talk about the practice. So we're going to do a bit of a practice, and that's going to allow us to apply these things that we're learning into our physical bodies and talk about that. And then we'll think about how we might integrate these simple practices into our own work. And then here are 3 agreements, and we're going to take a little time to make sure these feel okay for you. First of all, everything today is invitational. You are your most important teacher. And so even though I might suggest something, everything is an invitation. If something doesn't feel right for your body, you want to do something differently, you are more than welcome to do that. Secondly, listen to that inner teacher, trust your own wisdom, so be reflective throughout this process. And then lastly, this is, confidential. We want to honor everyone's story by telling only our own story, right? So these kinds of practices can create some vulnerability, and we just want to make sure that we let other folks tell their own story and we tell ours. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes, it does.
Do you think there's any I should add, Ange? Is there another agreement?
I think this is very, it's clear, it's simple. The language is definitely relatable, so nothing is going over my head.
Oh, well, nothing would go over your head, my love.
I'm just saying in regards to, the content. So, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Good. Thank you. All right, so in preparation, so since this is an experiential practice, I'm gonna give you about a minute to get yourself settled. So first, think about your space. Can you find a space where you can be comfortable? You could be seated in a chair or on the floor, right? So if you're sitting at your desk, that's okay, but is there a way that you could make yourself a little bit more comfortable, get a cozy blanket, maybe put a pillow behind your back to change your posture, get some water for yourself so you have that. What's something you could do? And if you can't sit on the floor, I'd encourage it. We're in our desks all the time. So if you can claim some space on the floor and move your laptop down, give it a go. Give yourself a little bit of a chance to be different, because I'm inviting you into that opportunity. Minimize distraction. So if you want to put some music on that you like, if you're going to close some doors to the house, if you're going to tell your kids that they need to see their dad, if they have any tech problems with their online learning, which I just did. They just did. We're just trying to silence what is not essential. This is not going to be a great session for you to like continue to do like other things while you're doing it. I mean, you can do that. I'm not going to stop you, but you're definitely not going to get full advantage of it if you are distracted, because part of mindfulness is being totally present. You know, and we don't have a ton of time together. So what could you do to be a little bit more present? And that brings us to our last one. Be here, bring your attention to what is happening now in this present moment. We have so much going on, we're rushing all the time. But for now, what can you do to just be here? Do those make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we get to do our quote unquote desk yoga practice. I'm actually not on my desk, I'm sitting on the floor. And so this is just breath, movement, and a mindful practice that can be done seated at your desk on the floor, or you can even do it standing. So most of the motions that we're doing, you could do standing up. And I'm actually going to stop my screen share, and I am going, so we can see each other. Introduction to me afterwards. But so I've told you I'm Barbara. That's all you need to know right now. All you need to know. You're with Barb. All right. Back to Zoom. Can you see my face?
Can you see my face? I can see your face.
Okay. All right. Can you see Ange? Like, can you see all of me?
No.
How much? What do you see? Because I can't see myself. Can you see the top of my head?
I see your forehead, and then your arm cuts off. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see. Okay, when you go back, yes, that's it.
All right, lovely. All right, so as I said when we started, everything is an invitation. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable seat. One thing that can help us be a little bit more comfortable, I've got a blanket here, and if I roll it up, I can put it right under my hip bones, and it's gonna make me just a little taller. Hopefully you can still see my forehead, even if I'm just like a touch taller. And then I'm gonna invite you to close your eyes, but that may not be comfortable for you. So if it's not comfortable for you to close your eyes, you can do what's called a soft gaze. So you kind of make your gaze go hazy, and you find a fixed point in front of you and down, maybe the top of your mat or the carpet, the front of your desk. If your eyes are closed or if you've got your soft gaze, now we're going to just bring our attention internally. So we're just going to start by noticing. We're going to start by noticing sensation. You might notice the pressure of your legs on the ground or on the chair that you're sitting on. You might find a place for your hands to rest and then notice the pressure and the texture of your hands and in your hands. If there's sounds in your environment, you might notice those sounds. You might notice that if there are sounds in your environment and you hope that it would be quiet, that there's maybe some internal dialogue going on around whether those sounds should be happening. So we just start by noticing. And then I'm going to invite you to notice the breath. When I do this practice with students, I ask a simple question: how do you know that you're breathing? What evidence is there that you are breathing? Maybe it's the way the breath moves the body. Maybe you notice it in the expansion of your stomach or your chest. Maybe you notice it in the texture of the air as it comes into your lungs. Noticing that sensation in your throat. Maybe you notice that when you breathe in, the air is cool, and when you breathe out, the air is warm. Maybe there's some sound that comes along with your breath. Just noticing. We're going to talk more about what yoga is and what it means, but the one thing I will tell you is that yoga means to unite or to connect. And so the first thing we're going to unite is we are going to unite some breath and some movement. So the first thing I want you to do, with your hands on your knees, I'm going to invite you to arch your back. So pressing your chest forward, lifting your chin. Do a big inhale here. And on your exhale, I want you to round the spine. So pushing the spine back, tucking the chin towards your chest, opening through the shoulders. Let's do that again. Inhale to arch the back, lifting the chin, feeling the stretch into the jaw. Exhale to round. Continue to move through this on your pace and your breath, reminding yourself that you have permission to move however you need to move and to ignore whatever you need to ignore. Remembering as you come forward, inviting you to inhale, and as you move back, inviting you to exhale. Come into stillness, and for just a moment, I want you to think about what is one word or even one color that you would use to describe the state of yourself before we began. Where were you starting from? Do you want to tell me?
Gray.
Gray. Oh, girl. Okay. I mean, I do love gray, but we'll see how that moves throughout.
Yes.
So sometimes naming a color can be a little bit more accessible than naming an emotion word, right? Because sometimes we're experiencing things that we don't have the depth of description we need, but sometimes colors can get us there in a different kind of way. So just a suggestion to integrate maybe into the counseling practice.
Yes.
Let's continue to move. So now we were arching and we were rounding. Now we're going to start to make some circles. So similar motion, but just start to make some circles with your body. Inhaling forward, exhaling back if that works for you. And that top of the head stays relatively stable. So you can put your hand on top of your head and notice that it stays relatively stable. Nobody's going to put a book on it because that would just fall off, but most of the movement is coming through your hips and your chest. Rolling out the body. You can start to speed it up if you want to. You can go really slow if that's what your body needs. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. 3, 2, 1, and switching the directions. Still inhaling forward, exhaling back. Just going the other way. If you've got tender knees and it doesn't feel good to sit crisscross, again, you can sit in that chair and do this on your chair. You can put your legs out in front of you. So do what you need to do so that you feel comfortable in your body. And then as you're ready, start to make those circles smaller and smaller, so tiny like a spiral, until you come back into stillness with your spine as the center point, and sit tall. Really quickly here, we're just going to do an even breath count. So let's inhale together. Exhale, side out through the mouth. If you want to make an audible sigh, you can. Inhale together. Exhale, side out. Or you don't have to. One last time. Inhale together. Exhale, side out. All right, we're going to add some additional movement here. So on your next inhale, I'm going to invite you to raise your hands above your head. Exhale, roll your shoulders down your back. We get so much tension across our back shoulders as we're hunching in front of our computers. Take a big inhale. On your exhale, I want you to twist your right hand behind your back and your left hand to your right knee. And stay. So again, your right hand is behind your back. Your left hand has come over and is resting on your right knee. And again, you can do this from a seated position at your desk. If you've got a back of a chair, you could actually use your right arm and hold on to the back of that chair. Breathing here and noticing sensation. So one of the things we do with the breath is as we begin to experience sensation or discomfort, we can inhale into that sensation, exhale, send the breath towards that sensation. Let's inhale towards the center, arms raised up, and on your next exhale, come down to the opposite side. So left hand goes behind the body, right hand comes to your left knee. On the exhale, breathe here for a few breaths. The gaze goes over that back left shoulder. You can actually tilt your head back a little bit and begin to feel that stretch along the side of your jaw and into your throat. You could do some circles of the jaw here. Let's inhale to center, arms come up. Exhale, go back to the right again. So left hand to right knee, right hand behind. Stay here for a couple of breaths. Arch your neck, opening your neck if that feels okay. Rotate the jaw so you can really feel the muscles in the jaw and the chin. Inhale to center. Exhale, cross left arm behind the back. And now we're going to do that one breath per movement. So inhale the arms to center. Exhale, twist. Left hand to the right knee, right hand behind. Inhale to center. Right hand to left knee, left hand behind. Inhale to center. Exhale to twist. Inhale to center. Exhale, twist. Inhale and twist. Inhale, lift that chin and twist. One more time on each side, inhaling to center, exhaling to twist. Inhale to center, exhale to twist. Inhale, arms up, back to center. Exhale, stay, and then let the hands come down so slowly, just feeling the sensation in the palms of the hands, like you're letting your hands and your fingers just kind of move across the surface of the air. Feeling the texture of the air. And then let the hands come down and land wherever it's comfortable for your hands to be. They can be palms face down, palms face up. Just a few breath exercises here at the end. We're going to do a 3-2-1 breath. Let's inhale together to prepare. Do one of those sighs out. Ha. And then we're going to breathe in. 3, 2, 1, and out. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 3, 2, 1, and out. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 3, 2, 1, and out. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. Release control of the breath. Just notice the breath. Let it go back to its natural rhythm. Notice the sensation. Notice what's in the body, whatever sensation is there. Let's take a big in-breath together. Side out. And as you're ready, if your eyes are closed, you can open your eyes. Ha! Very simple, very simple. Anyone could do it. And now, Miss Ange, now what color are you feeling?
Like an orange sunset.
Ooh. Ooh. I love it.
Yes.
And that's going to be our introductions. People are going to be like, I'm Angie. Before I was gray, but now I'm an orange.
And that's it. That's it. So it's 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute. It's allocated for 15 minutes. Your session.
Is that my session is 50.
Oh, 50 minutes. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So we're okay.
Okay.
All right, so that was our desk yoga practice. I'm gonna ask everybody in just a moment to turn on your mic if you're comfortable, and I'm gonna have you introduce yourselves. This is me. That is my phone. This is me. Can you see my screen, Ange?
I can.
Okay, so I am Barbara Jajix. In case you were curious, it is pronounced J-J-I-X, but you can call me Barbara, Barb, Babs, Rhubarb, you know. 2 bars and an A, as Miss Mavis Jackson calls me. And I am a fellow BCPS educator. I work at in the work-based learning office at the College and Career Readiness team. So I am, I've been in teaching for a long time. I was in Anne Arundel for 15 years. I've been in Baltimore City for a couple, and I'm so happy to be on that team and to be here with all of you. I'm also a yoga teacher. So I've been doing yoga for 20 years and then teaching for the last 3 years. And I'm also a trauma-informed yoga certified teacher through the Bodywise Foundation. And I'm going to be sharing those resources with you because they're a tremendous resource. And in case you're wondering why I didn't start with introductions, so when we're thinking about dysregulation versus regulation, introductions can actually be kind of stressful for folks. Maybe if you're like an extrovert, like, you know, gregarious extrovert like me, not so much. But for a lot of folks, it can create some activation. And so sometimes starting with something else can be a little bit more accessible. So that's why we started with something else. And this is how I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. I want to know who you are. So you're going to give us a before and after shot because there's so many of us. So you're just going to say I'm and then give us your name. Before I was, so think about that description, that word you would have used to describe before we started practicing. And now, what is the description? How are you feeling now in this moment? So Angie's going to model for us. Angie, you go first.
Hi, I'm Angie. Before I was gray, but now I'm orange sunset.
Ooh. Okay. And I know everyone else is not going to be quite as poetic as you, but hopefully they can aspire to be like you, just like I do.
Stop it, Barb.
I won't stop.
You won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
What?
All right, so let's talk about yoga really quickly. Yoga, as I mentioned, as we were going through our movements, means to unite or connect. It literally means yoke, right? Like, so a yoke that goes across two buffalo or oxen to keep them together. That's what yoga means. And so yoga connects many, many things, but one of the things it connects is a combination of breath, movement, and mindful practice. This can help regulate our nervous system. And there's tons and tons of research that show this. And when we connect to ourselves and each other through these practices, we tend to have better health and wellness outcomes. So there's now a lot of research that shows that if somebody is struggling with PTSD, if somebody is struggling with various mental illnesses and they're receiving treatment, if that treatment includes yoga or some other kind of movement and mindfulness practices, the outcomes are better. And if you want the research on this, again, Bodywise Institute has tons of resources on this. And since I was trained by them, I'm going to direct you to them for additional resources on that. But that's why yoga. So let's talk quickly about dysregulation. Dysregulation is when the nervous system becomes overwhelmed, activated, or flooded. And we know now that it's literally being flooded with chemicals that our bodies create, right? It's being flooded with cortisol and adrenaline and all of these different things. And this moves us into our feeling brain, right? Our amygdala, our more primitive brain, rather than our thinking brain. So like our prefrontal cortex. And I want to take a real quick conversation right now. So any questions about that? Or I would love to hear thoughts on what might dysregulation look like. So what would some signs that somebody is dysregulated look like? What are some things that you've seen? Angie, I'm calling on you.
Oh. So some things that we've seen. I guess you can say being dysregulation. So when the nervous system becomes overwhelmed, activated, or flooded. So it may, so some people may not, I guess you can say, Barb, put me on the spot. So,
sorry. I've dysregulated you. Not just like anything, like, you know,
my own that I was relaxed. So now I'm getting back into, all right.
So what are some that dysregulated you? You were relaxed, and now what's going on in your body?
What's going on in my body is that I'm trying to switch over to my thinking brain, right? Yeah. My thinking brain, my prefrontal cortex. So I have to get my words together. So when words are either convoluted or some people may not know, they may forget some things, or some of the things that they would remember on a day-to-day, they don't.
Absolutely. So interruptions in memory, right? Or not being able to get our words out. That could be a sign of dysregulation. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think simple ones, right? Like my pulse might begin to race. I might begin to feel my heart racing, right? Some people might become flushed, right? So I can see they're going to start to sweat. I might see them like they're literally, their face might change color.
Right. Yeah.
Can you think of other examples that you'd be like, oh, this person is on the edge of something?
Even their equilibrium is off. Mm-hmm. Their equilibrium is off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my son, I can tell in his tone, right? His voice changes when he is becoming activated. So I can hear it in the pitch and the volume of his voice.
And you can also tell, you know, even within our field, what they call, you know, the REM movement, when your eyes, like rapid eye movement.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, when, you know, again, those signs are of dysregulation, the beginning parts of dysregulation, when you have rapid eye movement.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's treatments around that now, we know, right? That people are offering treatments around the way that the eyes move. Yep. Pupils, and if you really want to get into it, pupils dilate, right? Like the pupils will dilate to let in more light so that you can see more clearly. Like that's physically what's happening in the body. Right. So we've all seen this, right? Like my daughter, her hands will clench, right? She goes the opposite direction. She starts to tense up, right? So I'll see her hands clench and I'll be like, ooh, okay, we got to interrupt that. All right, so there's lots of signs of dysregulation. You guys have named some, and we'll continue to think about some. And then, so here are some things. Here's a slide to help us with this, and you'll have access to all of these slides. So I wanted to name some of these. So dysregulation is part of our fight, flight, freeze, right? It's part of our sympathetic nervous system that's trying to keep us safe. So it might look like the heart racing, rapid breath, nervous movement, change in tone or volume. It can contribute to trouble sleeping because there are certain chemicals that help us sleep, and they are not the same ones that help us fight, flight, freeze. And then if you've ever been ghosted, like whether by a student or, you know, a loved one, right? Like they're just avoiding you, like that's part of flight. Like they could legitimately be in their sympathetic nervous system, and the only thing they know how to do is retreat and hide, right? So just a reminder about our sympathetic nervous system, it floods us with stress chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol to help us survive, you know, and it's all about perceived threats. If you perceive a threat, whether that's a social threat or a physical threat, our sympathetic nervous system is going to kick in. Regulation, on the other hand, when I'm calm, right? My glucose goes down. I start to breathe more deeply. Deep sighs. If you hear somebody deep sigh around you, something about you has just down regulated them. And that's a good thing. My husband sighs around me all the time. And I'm like, I know. I'll give him a hug and he takes this big breath in and then he goes,
Oh, yes.
that's it. That's it.
So
Listen for that. Like if you around people and they sigh around you, that's usually a good thing. Well, certain kind of sighs. They might not be, not like this kind of sigh. Not that kind. That's like the teenage sigh. That's a different kind of sigh. Relaxed body, laughter. So when we're hearing laughter, these are signs of rest and digest, right? And even sleepiness. So if a kid ever falls asleep in your class, that just means that you've kicked them into their parasympathetic nervous system. They feel really safe with you. That's what you tell yourself. All right, so the chemical that's being released for this is called DHEA. It's a hormone which allows for relaxation and downregulation. This is actually a hormone that you can buy. I was buying vitamin D and I was like, oh my God, there's DHEA. I had no idea. It's like there in the vitamin section. And sometimes it's advised for women that are aging, so it can like ease the aging process.
oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, I just discovered that because I did this. I was trying to find, I was like, what's the name of the chemical that's released during the parasympathetic response? And it's so long that they just abbreviate to DHEA. It's a terrible, like, it's not like cortisol and adrenaline. It's like, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so, and you can buy it in your local grocery store. I'm not advising that, by the way. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying that it's there.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. All right, so the thing about breath, this is what breath does, is that breath is it is something that we both consciously control and something that is also unconscious. So when we go to sleep, our autonomic nervous system takes over the breath, right? And we're gonna breathe throughout our entire night. So it is, at that point, out of our control. We can do it without thinking about it. But on the same note, we can actually take control of it too, right? Most of the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic, is outside of our control completely. We can't control our digestion. We can't control our release of hormones. We can't control our pulse, but we can control our breath. And if we control our breath, we can take ourselves out of the sympathetic response and move us into a parasympathetic response. That's the magic of the breath. That's the magic of the breath. That breath can be used to down-regulate the nervous system and move us from sympathetic to parasympathetic. It's magic. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's practice it. So that's what we were doing it before, right? So I was having you notice, I was having you move, and you were focused on the breath and the movement, and it was moving you into a parasympathetic response, regardless of what had come before that moment. So we're going to try this. This is the cycle we've created, okay? I'm going to ask you to bring to mind a mildly, emphasis on the mildly activating event, right? So something that like irked you, not something that traumatized you. So maybe it's a person. So this should not be a person that's like, that you, is going to move you into an unsafe response, right? So just somebody who's kind of irksome, or it can be a moment that happened that bothered you, you know, something that's light. And then we're going to notice and name the sensations generated in the body.
Yes.
And then we're going to deepen the breath. And then we're going to notice again. That's all we're doing, okay? Do you have one you want to, you don't have to name it out loud, but if you want to share it, you can.
Me?
Yeah, you don't have to. I'm not going to ask them to, but if you want to, you can.
So, since you asked, the mildly activating event was, we can say my husband not putting something in the calendar that needed to be done, and I had to end up saving the day because it was on his agenda to do, and it didn't get done, and so I had to step in on my day of relaxation. And yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to take, I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna take the cycle off. So we close our eyes. You're just gonna see me.
Okay.
Can you see me?
I can.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's close our eyes. If that's comfortable for you, I'm gonna invite you to close your eyes. I want you to bring to mind that moment.
Yes.
You're like, no problem.
I remember it. Yesterday, I remember it.
I want you to notice in your body the sensation. So if you're remembering the emotions that you were feeling, experience those emotions as sensations. So if the word you were going to say was frustrated, what does frustrated feel like in your body? Does it feel like a constricting in the throat? Does it feel like your pulse starting to race? Are you noticing tension in your body? Begin to unpack, begin to pull apart that emotion that you were feeling as sensation. Maybe you feel it as a tightening in the jaw. Maybe you feel it as tingling someplace. Just notice that sensation. Describe it in your mind. Now we're going to use the breath. Wherever that sensation is residing in your body, maybe it's a couple places, I want you on an inhale to begin to send breath to those spaces. And on the exhale, see if you can't imagine releasing just a little bit of that tension on the exhale, like the breath is washing some of that away. Breathing into the sensation on the inhale. On the exhale, I'll release. Continue to do that, breathing into the space of sensation that holds that memory or holds that experience. And on the exhale, letting the breath take away just a little bit of the sensation. Maybe as you're doing this, you notice the sensation shifts. So maybe it was in your jaw, but now it's moved to your chest, and you can just move the breath to it. Move the breath to meet the sensation. Breathing into that space and out. And you can do this for as long as you needed to move the sensation through. Maybe it happens quickly. Maybe for you, you would need to sit with this for 10 minutes. Let's take an in-breath together. Exhale to clear. And now notice if your body feels any differently than it did when you started this just a couple minutes ago. Notice what's there. Notice any shifts. Notice if it stayed the same. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. So how'd we do? How was that? What did you notice, Ange?
A decrease in racing thoughts and a releasing of a tense chest.
Yeah. So the thoughts slowed down.
Yeah.
And a little bit of easing in the chest area.
Yep.
So what I mean? Okay. Yeah. So super simple. And again, by thinking of an activating event, our bodies go back there very quickly, right? Memory keeps us in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start to go into our sympathetic response, and by activating the breath and by using the breath in a parasympathetic pattern, we can get ourselves to come back, right? So bring to mind an event, we notice sensation, we use the breath, we notice a name, any change. That's really it. Like super simple and accessible. Mm-hmm. So these are our 4 things. We breathe, we move, we notice, we name. We breathe, we move, we notice, we name. So breath, conscious breath changes brain activity, and it harmonizes brain systems, shifting away from the emotional brain and back into the thinking brain. We move, so we create sensation in the body and a safe environment, and we can actually help discharge the biochemical buildup of stress hormones and invite people back into their physical self. So we're moving we're moving the things in the body, right? We're getting the body to down-regulate. We're creating a space, some guidance where it's possible for the body to do that. But then people are doing their own work. We're just kind of holding the space and giving some boundaries to that work. And then we're noticing and naming. So what we're doing is mindfulness. It's a form of intent noticing. The word is actually interoception. It's self-awareness from the inside out. Interoception is the term. And research on mindfulness and interoception shows a reduction of stress, loneliness, and chronic pain, and an increase in resilience, empathy, and concentration when we do these very simple practices. Does that slide make sense, Ange?
It does. I'm learning. This is
Ooh.
great.
Well, then
Yes.
that's my concern, right? I'm working with all these counselors who have all of these amazing modalities, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm offering them something that can just maybe probably help them rethink what they do already, right? But just like in a different kind of way. Oh, this one's going to be so fun, Angie. Woo! We're going to do some co-regulation through conscious listening real quick.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so this is another practice. All right, so another system that goes offline when we are activated is our sense of hearing. And there are actually 3 bones in the ear that help us to hear. And when we get activated, those bones spread apart, and it actually makes it more difficult to hear the human voice, and we're more actually tuned into the threats around us. And the theory around why this happens is because throughout most of our evolutionary history, humans would not have been the threat to us. The threat would have been everybody else. It was actually our humans who kept us safe. But we can hear the consequences of this, right? That actually when we get into a conflict, maybe with someone we love, maybe because they didn't put something on their calendar, we are actually less able to hear them when we get activated.
Yes.
We are not listening in the same way we would be if we were calm, which just like throws into relief every conflict we've ever had with a loved one, right? I didn't say that, or I didn't say that.
Yes.
We just can't hear each other anymore.
Yes.
All right. Great. Yes. It's so, I love that fact. Like, it's like, I live that fact. I'm like, ooh, my 3 bones are definitely spread apart right now. And I need
You are teaching me this morning, Barb. Yes.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a simple co-regulation. Here's the deal with co-regulation. There are people that when we get around them, we feel real calm, right? Like, ooh, I can just be here forever. And then there are people we get around them and we're like, ooh, tense immediately. So we can actually help other people re-regulate through our own calm. Or we can accidentally dysregulate people by our actions and our responses. So this is a simple co-regulation activity. All we're going to do, even though we're far apart, I'm going to invite you, Angie, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. I'm going to take off the screen so that we can see each other, although we don't have to. All right, so have to keep switching back and forth. That's okay. All right, so this is very simple. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to name a sensation that you notice. So I'm going to start by saying, I notice the texture. I notice the weight of my hands on my knees. Now you can name one, something that you notice. We're just going to go back and forth.
I notice the weight of my left hand on top of my right.
I notice the heat of my palms on my legs.
I notice the air that is circulating around my arms.
I notice the sound of the breeze through the leaves of the wind outside of my door.
Mm-hmm. I notice the weight of my body sitting on the yoga mat.
I notice a little bit of tingling in my feet.
I notice the sound of the ventilation system down here in the basement.
I notice the chiming of my wind chimes.
I notice sound.
I notice a siren in the distance. Baltimore.
Going?
What's that?
Keep going?
Yeah, do one more.
Okay.
I don't want to end on sirens.
I noticed the sound of the closing door.
That was my son. I noticed the smile on my face. I'm going to open my eyes.
Ditto.
All right. So that's co-regulation. It's super simple. And it's a way to get people to sync up to each other. Can you think of any way you might use that? What's a way you might use that in practice in your life?
Oh, wow. This could be a great marital exercise in communication of the event that is happening, the conversation that is happening at that time, where both you and your partner or your spouse are sitting in front of one another, and you are maybe having a tough conversation, or you are having, kind of like just a conversation period. And you can, what is this? Co-dysregulate?
Co-regulate.
Co-regulate?
Yeah.
You can co-regulate the conversation.
Mm.
Like
yeah.
what we just did.
Yeah, and we can have that before we started, or we could interrupt if a conversation, it feels like we're not listening anymore, we could take a pause.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can do it in groups. You can do it in like groups of 3, right? Or 4. You can sort of like move in a circle. So it doesn't have to be just 2. So it's a way for us to, again, bring ourselves back into like conscious listening with one another.
Yeah.
And it's also, I'm going to talk just really quickly about what it does and why that practice. Can you see my screen again?
Yes.
Lovely. Okay. So these are 6 practices, and I'm going to jump forward to the co-regulation one. So we'll talk about the other ones, but co-regulation, it's really simple. You're just working in pairs to notice sensation, right? So it's a way to re-engage listening, re-engage, but also harmonize my system with somebody else's system that I need to be in harmony with, right? So whatever group you're working in or whatever partnership you're working in, it's a really simple way to do that. You can do it at the beginning of, I've done that at the beginning of staff meetings, in small groups, and it worked really well. It was really lovely. So here are the simple practices. Breath and movement. You can literally coordinate simple movements on the inhale and the exhale, and they can be anything. It literally can be anything. It can be arms up, arms down, arms forward, arms back. So there's no wrong way to do this, right? They can be, if you're working with younger kids, right? It can be silly, right? It can be like animal movement, but we're just trying to coordinate the inhale and the exhale. So anyone can do that. 3, 2, 1, count down the breath on a 3 count. So one of the studies has shown that people that have experienced dysregulation or trauma, they breathe differently. They start using different muscles to breathe, and they if you hold the breath for too long or hold the breath out for too long, it can actually be a triggering sensation. So focusing on no more than 3. Don't hold the breath, don't breathe in and out for more than a 3 count, and you count down 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, so that they know when it's going to end. So it's just a way to take a little bit of that wondering, like, oh, am I going to be able to hold the breath for this? Well, you are, because we know we're counting down from 3. So 3, 2, 1 breath. You can do a square breath, inhale for 3, hold for 3, out for 3, hold out for 3. you know, that's something you can do. It's called square breathing, and some of you may have done that. All right, the vagus nerve. I got to get the vagus nerve in here. So there is a nerve called the vagus nerve. It's called the vagus because vagus means to wander, and it's the longest nerve in the body, and it's both part of the sympathetic and part of the parasympathetic, and it evolved at different times. So there's part of it that is more evolved, like in more of our evolved systems, and then there's parts that are in our more primitive systems. So again, vocalization stimulates, it creates what's called vagal tone. So it can, so if you've ever felt like you needed to yell or like vocalize or sing in order to get yourself back online, part of it is you may be stimulating the vagal nerve, which is in our throat, right? So it's in our throat. So when we were doing those deep sighs out, ha, or anything like that, or if you just need to like go in your car, turn up the music and just like belt it out and all of a sudden you feel better, you are increasing your vagal tone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singing in church, right? Singing in religious contexts, right? And how it maybe makes us feel better, moves things through. All right. So anything really with vocalization can be very helpful. We talked about co-regulation, hip stretches. All right. In our hips is a muscle called the psoas muscle, right? And there's bunches of muscles in our related to our hips, but we hold lots of tension, lots of emotion in our hips. So anything that can release some of that tension, and the reason the psoas muscle is associated with fight, flight, freeze, because it's the muscle that tenses before you jolt, right? So it's the muscle that tenses before I run or I bolt. So again, if I'm in that like, I gotta get away response, the psoas muscle automatically tenses, right? And then if we don't have a release for that, we're just constantly holding that tension and our body thinks it's under threat, right? So here's a really simple one. If you're sitting down, I just want you to take your legs. We've been sitting crisscross, so that may have created some tension in the legs. So this is super simple. You're sitting up, take your legs wide, right? As wide as a mat or wider in front of you. And all you're gonna do, you can lean back on your hands, and then you're just gonna windshield wiper your knees. Ooh. So just windshield wiper your knees back and forth.
Oh.
You feel that? All right, so that is just a quick release, and you can do that sitting in a rolly chair. You can actually just like plant your feet and then just like turn in your rolly chair, and it'll create that sensation in your hips if you're at your desk all day. And then the last one, like that conscious listening, right? So noticing the sound of the breath, noticing the sound of the environment, getting ourselves back into listening. Those are 6 super simple practices. You can do them anywhere. You don't need a mat. You can do them at the drop of a hat. You don't need training to do them, right? And all of those are going to help us re-regulate. So I've got some additional resources here that you will have access to, and that's it. And then if you guys have any thoughts, question and answer, we can do that really quickly. And that's my presentation, and
yay!
That's it. What'd you think?
Very, very informative, very practical, very integrative. And this is going to be so beneficial, like I said, as an integrated piece for counselors. Yes.
Anything you'd want me to take more time on, explain more, explain less, move around? Any thoughts?
The timing was great. Again, the language and the way that you explained it, like I said, was very practical, which is needed. And so the way that I received it, and of course other counselors, like I said, it shouldn't be too over the top, because again, it's informative, and that's what we want. And then the practical piece of actually doing it, it makes the time go by quick as well. So it didn't even feel like 50 minutes.
Well, I did a little tech at the beginning where I was like, how do I make this work? Which I hopefully won't do. So I'll be able to.
Well, with us, Barb, for time, But yes,
so much. This was such a gift. When do we get to work together for realsies?
Realsies and that's, I have a very structured time frame right now in regards to what my mentor, like I'm very structured and disciplined in regards to like quarterly stuff that I need to begin and end.